A legislative study recommends reforming North Carolina's community college system. We'll explore the issue and what it could mean for taxpayers and small community colleges. Next on North Carolina Now.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Good evening, I'm Kelly McCullen. Thank you so much for watching North Carolina Now. On tonight's program, we'll be exploring a report that has been issued from the North Carolina General Assembly's Program Evaluation Division. Lawmakers a couple of years ago asked that division's fiscal analysts to search for efficiencies within the state's community college system. The community college system features 58 campuses that serve all 100 North Carolina counties. Pamlico Community College is our state's smallest campus. Central Piedmont Community College is the state's largest. Now, these campuses are semi-independent. Each has a president, administration, and board of trustees. Legislative fiscal researchers report state taxpayers could save $26.2 million over 7 years by implementing recommendations they make in the Program Evaluation Division's 2-year study of the state's community college system. We asked 2 non-legislative higher education analysts their assessment of the system. Alexandra Sirota represents the North Carolina Budget and Tax Center.
North Carolina's community college systems have really been a national model in terms of looking at ways that we can increase completion rates among students enrolled in our programs. And the community college system has done an amazing job of leveraging private resources and public resources to really make clear pathways for students and their success in the workforce.
Jay Shallon researches higher education issues for the John William Pope Center for Higher Education Policy.
Some of the larger community colleges are very good. They're providing a level of education pretty close to the university system, but there are some, at the smaller schools, there's some rough spots.
The Program Evaluation Division reports any small campus mergers would affect only administration, with human resources departments, financial services, and other non-class operations being shifted.
The cost savings measures are really minimal and probably don't account for the full range of costs that could be incurred. When you look at the $5.1 million figure, that's really less than 0.5% of the community college general fund appropriation. So really not getting at the kind of level of savings that everyone's feeling pressure to identify because of the fact that we don't have adequate revenue for our public investments.
Anytime you can cut administrative costs, you're ahead of the game, if you can, especially if you can shift them to education. The multi-campus concept has worked very well in North Carolina. There's, I believe, 32 of them. You have to remember there's 100 counties and only 58 community colleges. So this kind of multi-campus system has already been working.
The Program Evaluation Division reports any small campus mergers would affect only administration, with human resources departments, financial services, and other non-class operations being shifted.
I don't know whether there is some kind of groundswell among the average person that, oh my God, they're going to limit the number of community colleges or something. I believe that the same services will be offered to the same students with roughly the same teachers. It's purely an administrative shift.
There is debate surrounding the proposed elimination of small campus community college presidents. Critics of cutting those presidential positions say their salaries are easy to count, but presidents offer intangible benefits that cannot be easily priced. They say presidents are local ambassadors that generate local enthusiasm for fundraising, help recruit economic development, and can oversee worker training programs designed especially for the immediate area. Local presidents also ensure local identity, another asset the North Carolina Budget and Tax Center's Alexandra Sirota says cannot be defined by financial analysis.
there is something important about having a local leader leading a local community college and having that community college very tied to what's going on in their local context.
The majority of any dollar savings for the community college system would be achieved through these campus administrative mergers. But the Program Evaluation Committee makes more recommendations that the colleges collaborate system-wide on purchasing supplies, using bulk buying power, in essence, to save money. Newly merged colleges and their new leaders could assess the consolidation of campus services like child care centers, small business centers, and equipment use. The savings are estimated to be about $5.1 million a year if all the recommendations are followed and mergers finalized. Now, while this report seems final from the fiscal analysts, the political discussion within the Joint Legislative Education Oversight Committee is the next step in any community college reform proposal. Madison County Democratic Representative Ray Rapp joins us. Democrats launched the study. It comes in under Republican watch, $26.2 million over 5 years. Was that what you thought when you launched the study? Is that a lot of money? Is that just a little bit of money?
Well, clearly it's a lot of money over a 5-year span, but it was a study that we requested because we had staff that had made this recommendation for several years while I was still co-chair of Ed Appropriations. So rather than have people just emote about this, we asked for a systematic study and with recommendations. What we looked at, what was received by the committee, reflects basically, I think, what was the staff's predetermination of what should be in the first place.
So for years, this was on your marks, get set, then no study. Finally, it gets done.
Well, actually, if you go back a little over a year ago, we proposed this and we floated it as a trial balloon. We were going to take 4 sections of the state and we would try it. And there was such a reaction. I mean, it was a storm cloud that immediately went up. My office saw the presidents of these institutions in there arguing against it. And I have to say that it made me take a step back from our initial proposal for a couple of reasons. One, I think it came down to, as I heard over and over again, this could be penny wise and pound foolish. In other words, if you take one of the chief fundraisers, one of the chief contacts with the local communities away, meaning that local community college president, who's raising money from the county commissioners, who's raising money from donors in the community to support their different scholarship programs. Just make one other point on this. There seems to me, as our staff and the legislature had argued, and I think it's still a valid point, we can realize some economies of scale simply with purchasing, some procurement issues. That's almost a no-brainer from my standpoint. Clearly we can. Just a volume of 58 community colleges buying can have a drive down the price. So that makes sense. But in terms of the administration and the financing of our local community colleges and their initial missions to serve local communities, this undercuts that.
Do you think these presidents bring in more money than the state pays in their salary?
I think the net impact is just that.
There are people who watch the bottom line. They see $650 per student to administer, per student to administer a large community college, almost $1,000, a huge gap there between what it costs to run a small community college versus a large. Can you close that gap? Do you want to, or is civic pride so important that it may deserve a subsidy like this?
Again, I don't think it's just a matter of civic pride. I think it's a matter of when you go to local employers to get them to contribute and to help pay for training, to help pay for scholarships, to help support the institution. It may cost you a few dollars more, but it's offset by the money that you're bringing in locally.
And this report doesn't gauge local financial support.
It does not do this at all.
Representative Ray Rapp, Democrat, Madison County, thanks for being on the show, talk about this complex issue, and we'll follow you on the Oversight Committee and see what, if any, final recommendations come out.
Very good.
If you want to see one of those small community colleges mentioned in the Program Evaluation Division's report, visit Montgomery Community College in Troy, North Carolina. The college's fact book, which you can find online, says its campus ranks 55th of 58 total community colleges in North Carolina when measuring full-time annual enrollment. Now, despite being small, 1 of every 5 residents living in Montgomery's service area are enrolled either full-time or part-time.
It's not just the students being served here, it is a hub for this community. It is where people can come and be a part and know that we're going to be here to help them.
The legislature's Program Evaluation Division names Montgomery as a campus where merging its administrative office and leadership with another nearby community college would save the state money. Montgomery Community College would lose its president, that's Dr. Mary Kirk for now, and see other departments in the head office scale back.
Who takes over the responsibilities that are closed down as a part of the backroom operations? Are they going to have enough personnel on their campus to be able to handle that, or will they have to hire more people? What programs would stay here? Would my gunsmithing program, forestry, taxidermy, pottery, all 2-year programs, would they stay alive?
The college merger report suggests that any new leadership structure arising from any college merger would determine staffing levels and course offerings at the satellite campuses. The president of the college that swallows Montgomery, for instance, would most likely preside over MCC's Troy campus under this proposal.
They merged Montgomery Community College, we would no longer be Montgomery Community College. We would be a multi-campus of whichever college we were merged with.
Montgomery County leaders and college fundraising leaders worry about losing their campus independence. They say they have seen other in-county companies take a regional management approach.
We've seen similar things in businesses that have been acquired in this county, and the management team then leaves the county and we're being managed from the outside, and you have a gradual deterioration of that business.
If Dr. Kirk leaves, then you're going to have another level under here. Pretty soon it'll be gone. Pretty soon you're going to have curriculum changes. Pretty soon you're going to have classes that are not really functioning here as effectively because we have changed instructors. They're going to be required to go to another campus to take these classes.
Montgomery County leaders believe local students will suffer, but Jay Shallon, an analyst for the Pope Center for Higher Education Policy, says the proposed mergers could free up cash that could, right now in theory, be redirected towards the rural community college classroom.
I believe that that could be directed by the legislature to begin with, and hopefully they are interested in putting the money where it's most needed. The education mission is where it is most needed at these smaller community colleges.
Montgomery leaders say the county needs an independent college campus. It can react quickly to microeconomic needs. It can also create plans that Montgomery County residents specifically need, but that neighboring counties and their leaders may not need or even recognize. They believe a merger would mean less customer service for locals needing job training and locally based higher education options.
I think it's a very viable thought that might happen. We have, over the 19 years that I've been economic developer, we have really had to be voiceful. We've really had to make people know where Montgomery County is and what our needs are.
Montgomery Community College is part of our community. It's not just the fact that the college is named after our county. The staff, including Dr. Kirk, are very much an integral part of our community. They're active in many of our organizations, our charitable organizations.
County leaders also say the Program Evaluation Division did not assess the value of an active college president who works and lives in an economically depressed county.
Projections, when they start out, you know, if you do a study, you can cause a study to take place by different things, and then once you start it rolling down the road, you sort of get the results that you want. That's what I understand.
My community involvement, I think, is where I play a stronger role. I'm on a lot of boards: Chamber, EDC, Partnership for Children, Community and Schools. It just goes on and on and on. I'm on a lot of boards at the state level.
Higher education analyst Jay Shallon says North Carolina has a successful history of operating multi-campus community colleges.
You have to remember there's 100 counties and only 58 community colleges, so this kind of multi-campus system has already been working, and so it makes, if you can cut some administration, go for it.
As lawmakers hold hearings and debate this proposal, Montgomery College and county officials say their operations will continue, but future planning is somewhat stalled. Stress on faculty and employees has risen and is rising, and there are concerns local fundraising efforts, which net about $250,000 a year, will drop.
One of the things that we had under consideration was a drive to build a new health and sciences building. We have completely put that on the back burner because no one would be interested in building a health and science building if we were going to lose control of the college.
Once this thing first came up, we had a number of faculty, staff that started seeking employment elsewhere, and this affected some of the services that were provided, some of the classes.
We are the lowest funded educational entity in the state. And when you look at all the things that we are asked to do as a community college and the students that are served, you know, I think this state gets far, far more bang for their buck and their investment in our community college.
The community college system was founded back in 1963, but new campuses opened as late as 1978. The system's principles included placing a campus within 30 road miles of every potential student, that local governments help fund the colleges, and that every campus practice an open-door admissions policy. Davie County Republican Representative Julia Hauer here on the show tonight to talk about this community college study. What do you think about it?
Well, I think the division did a good job in their assignment, what they were requested to do. I think they were very thorough. And if you remember, the legislation came from the 209 session, so it wasn't anything that this seated body requested.
I didn't see too many Democrats or Republicans jumping out and embracing this idea the way this study turned out. $26.2 million over 7 years. The best I found were folks who say, you know, it's a topic of conversation. It needs to be on the table.
It does.
Is that where you see this?
It does. And if you read the report, there were two recommendations. One was the consortium for purchasing, and apparently everybody thinks that's a great idea, and that's something that we should look at and probably can have buying power when you buy in larger quantities through the whole 58 community college system. Now, whether or not that's feasible to do that, I don't know. It needs to be addressed further. The second recommendation that was made was to look at the smaller universities that only have maybe 1,000 students or less than.
There's a threshold where I see it costs $900 roughly per student to administer that college campus versus a large community college campus of over 3,000, it drops by some 33%.
And that's you know, that's not rocket science. There was no closures. There was no recommendation of closing any community college. It was simply merging two pieces. The two pieces was the president's office and the financial services piece. And if we could pull that together, if that's the will of the legislature, to pull that together, then that's where the savings generate. What was the objective of establishing community colleges, of which we are all very, very proud? The objective is to provide education to the members of that community in a timely and also manner, and also in a manner where they don't have to drive, you know, 30 miles to attend classes. And you know, all of the rhetoric and I understand the concern because nobody wants to lose their identity or their and there's been some mixed messages out there about closing the campuses and things. It can work if people want it to work, and I am not recommending it or it's the will of the people. But we did accept the report on the committee, and in doing that, we also did a referral to education oversight. And that's the next step that should look at this.
And we'll be looking and following that committee
as
well.
you should,
well,
as you should.
Representative,
Yeah.
thanks for being on the show
You're
to talk
welcome.
about this really complex topic, but
is.
it's going to affect everybody in North Carolina potentially.
Well, it could, and it could be good or it could be detrimental. It's the way that we look at it and the way that we want to move it forward,
Thank you,
if we want to.
Thank you, Representative.
You're welcome.
College system's 2010-2011 state funding was just under $1.03 billion. County governments statewide invested another $503 million into the system. Students paid $317 million in tuition payments, with federal funding making up 1%, or about $26.5 million of the system's funding throughout 2010 and 2011. But since it's state money that could be saved through any mergers, let's break down the state's contribution using 2009-2010 data from the Program Evaluation Division. 49% of the state funds cover curriculum instruction, 18% support continuing education classes, and 16% covers institutional support, including those administrative offices. Another 17% funds academic and student support services. Scott Rawls is the president of the North Carolina Community College System. How do you address this report as it heads toward lawmakers and they start discussing it?
Well, the report's a recommendation. It certainly got our attention because it would have a transformational impact on our system. We can't afford to let it be our focus now. We're starting a new fall semester, record number of students, significant cuts that we're challenged with, so we're focused on that, but it certainly has our attention.
You support one of the proposals to use the bulk buying power to buy supplies?
No, absolutely.
Get a discount rate.
Yeah, and we've been doing those types of things. I mean, one of the best examples, it's a group of 58 colleges. We had the largest IT implementation in higher education over recent years. So those are the kinds of things, and we think we can do more of that and save money. The other recommendation about merging a quarter to a third of our colleges, it gives us some pause.
Since this is about saving money in the community college level, do you have a mechanism in your system where people employees can offer feedback to trim costs, or?
Yeah, that typically happens at the local colleges, and with community colleges, we've grown by 28% since the recession started 3 years ago. We have the lowest per student funding, so as the report indicated, efficiency is something that we have to be attuned to. Our colleges are very focused towards that because we have more students than ever before. Dealing with this year's budget cuts will make us even more efficient. We think in this recommendation about mergers, you have to fully weigh the cost benefits, and in that case, we don't think that the benefits of the savings that's talked about are justified by the cost that we think would be on the system and the state in that sense.
You wrote a letter when this report was released, and it was included with the report, and you were defining there was a difference between a community college and a regional college. What's the difference in whether there's a president and administration in County A and whether it gets moved to another county and create a satellite
Well,
campus?
something that I think the intangible that makes our community colleges unique is that community part of our name. Our colleges, as the report indicated, they were created by the counties. The states, funded that, but the counties had to step up too. 27% of the funding comes from local funding. They were created, cultivated, and so the thing that makes them rich is they're not just places where classes occur. They're economic catalysts, leadership catalysts in smaller communities that are truly, some of them are struggling across our state right now.
Since the report's about money and saving money, $5 million a year, if you could fight off the merger proposal and they say we'll still find $5 million in your system, could you find it?
You always can, and certainly I think it's been noted, we've worked very closely with leaders in the General Assembly now to this year's cuts will be $117 million. So the cuts they're talking about is the result of savings from mergers would only be not even 1/20th of what the cuts that community colleges will experience this year. I personally think that given the demands that community colleges have faced in recent years, the role we're playing, the role we've played in making cuts and efficiency, that I would hope they would look to other places as well before they would look at us. But the notion of merging up to a third of our community colleges to gain an additional $5 million, that hasn't been something that's been part of our planning.
What do you make of the public reaction to this plan? It's been fairly quiet. The report came out middle of the summer. Do you think students and families will get engaged in this, or will this always be sort of inside baseball politically?
I think it depends on how the report moves forward, and certainly it seems to have received some real mixed feelings among legislators from what I can tell. I think in those communities that we're talking about, up to 22 colleges, there's certainly been a pretty big outcry from those communities because they understand what the community college means. In rural counties, community colleges really mean something. They do all across the state and are urban as well, but in those rural communities where you're facing over 11% unemployment, most of the more depressed economic areas, those communities colleges, as I say again, are more than just where classes occur, and they've been created and cultivated by those local communities. And what I've heard, they'd hate to lose those colleges, and we'd hate to see them go as well.
Dr. Rawls, so glad to hear your perspective on this issue, and we'll be following you as you, no doubt, will address lawmakers as they pick up this report in the coming months.
Thank you, Cal.
This report's entering another phase of legislative debate and consideration. It's only that, a proposal from fiscal analysts at the legislature. It is not a bill. It is certainly not a law. As the debate continues and hearings are held, we'll be following them right here on North Carolina Now. If you missed any part of this program or want to see individual video clips, visit our website, unctv.org/NCNow. I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.